Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. This is a show where we answer your questions about movies, TV shows, comic books, Black Adam. I actually think I might have done this intro. I'm doing a little pod swap with our friends over at Geek History Lesson, and they gave us their episode of Who is Black Adam. So if you want to check, that's actually on our timeline. So if you want to check that out, that's the episode right before this one. But they're talking about Black Adam. We're also talking about Black Adam. If you're on Geek History Lesson, you're listening to this episode, Inception style. I'm talking about a Geek History Lesson, talking about Black Adam. It's a snake eating its own tail. It's an Ouroboros. I'm your host, DJ Woldridge. With me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. Roxy, how are you doing?
Just so good, DJ.
Oh my God, so good. We're getting ready to talk about a movie that you and I have been talking about since the dawn of time, maybe? Who's to say at this point?
I know. It's been a long time since a rock and roll, and it's been a long time since The Rock was cast as Black Adam.
I went and looked back. I was like, how long was it? And the first time, because there was that long conversation, like, is he Captain Marvel or is he Shazam or is he Black Adam? Which one is it? That conversation started all the way back in like 2006.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oof.
I know because we were like when we were doing 8 years of DC movie news, we were talking about The Rock for all of it.
Yes.
It's like, how is that possible? It's been this long. It's like the little engine that could. But nothing for nothing, though. All the other movies that seem to have like ups, down, recastings, Black Adam was like very steady throughout that entire time.
That is a good point. It took a long time, but there wasn't like a lot of drama behind the scenes. I do feel like no matter how you feel about the movie, even if you loved it, I can't imagine somebody going and seeing it and being like, I don't know that this should have taken 15. I feel like 15 years, we could have gotten something. I don't know. Expectations are high, I think, at least on this end of the pod. But listen, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Black Adam today. But before we get to that, I just want to let you know, gosh dang it, we have a Patreon. If you love this show, and I know you do, and you want more of it, you can go over to patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. Roxy and I have a show called What We're Into, where we talk about all the stuff that we can't talk about on the main show, including House of the Dragon, Andor. We're going to be talking about a bunch of other cool things. Rings of Power. Now that season's wrapped up, we're going to talk about that a little bit. I also have a show with Sal from Comic Pop called Spider-Versity, where we talk about everything Spider-Man and some things that aren't Spider-Man adjacent, let's say, because we just did 2 episodes on Morbius. So that's over on the Patreon. Ooh, for just in time for spooky season. Speaking of spooky season, last week we talked about Halloween Ends, and so we asked our audience the question, who is your favorite horror movie slasher? And if you listen to this on Spotify, that's where you can answer this question. Yashu Wazalewski said, Ghostface, even though at times he is unnaturally fast. In the most recent one, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong here, Roxy, Ghostface stabs a person and then like lifts them up. And then when we find out who, like off the ground, like feet off the ground, lifts this person up. And once we find out who Ghostface is, I'm like, that's impressive.
DJ, if you think that I remember, I think I know what you're talking about though, because like me, right?
Yeah. It's one of those. It's like, okay. I mean, Ghostface is one of the things I love about Ghostface is it's always a dude, just a person. But when you put on that Ghostface mask, you do somehow pick up abilities that are somewhat beyond the normal person.
Yeah, totally true. But then again, like, maybe bench pressing a lot or like
maybe
like power lifter.
Yeah, maybe. You don't know. It might not look it, but maybe.
Strong things come in small packages, DJ.
That's a fact. Andrew Braza says, once again, Ghostface hands down. The fact that the killer changes from film to film and you don't know who to trust is great. Love me a good whodunit. Thank you, Andrew. I will also add to that I watched it in the same way I watched Smile, the new movie Smile, and I watched the new Hellraiser. And it made me, for some reason, it finally clicked in my brain that a lot of like horror movies are also low-key mystery movies, because there's always a chunk of those movies where it's like, what's the thing? Or how do we stop the thing?
Do you feel like there's validity to this statement, DJ? Every movie is a mystery movie?
Elaborate.
Like, isn't there something in every movie that's like, what's gonna happen here?
I see what you're saying. I think there's something about mystery movies, obviously the genre in and of itself, but also of slashes where that's specifically an aspect of, like, that's the point of the
Of
movie
course,
is
it's not
unsolving
like
the
a who
mystery.
done it,
Yeah.
but like I like in a love story, it's a mystery how they're gonna get there.
How they're going to end up.
Yeah.
I will say that I think that also touches on the idea that I've heard people talk about that I like a lot, of how a good story kind of unfolds, like one thing leads into the next. And so there's that sense of mystery of how they unfold. I will say, maybe a movie we're talking about today is a lot like modern blockbusters where the events in the movie are kind of disconnected from each other. It's like one thing doesn't necessarily lead into the other. It's just things loosely set beside each other. We'll get
A
into
little
that.
bit of a mystery though, DJ.
Why in this order? We'll get into it. And then finally, Ray Alvarez said, I think my favorite horror slasher is Lee Winnell's Invisible Man. Great movie. As far as just the slashing villain themselves, always loved the dream concept of Freddy. So those are the favorite slashers. Thank you all for playing the home game. And now that's done, we're going to get into a little bit of news. Before we talk about Black Adam, we're going to get into a little bit of news. And we got some fun stuff this week. We got reports, and this is from Deadline. This isn't just, it's not, Roxy, you and I work in the same space. It'll be like, is this person going to be in this movie? And the source is Illuminati or something. And you're like, who the fuck is Illuminati? Why do we trust these people? Is
Don't
it just
even say their name out loud, DJ.
Am I not allowed?
Nerdy is scary.
Yeah, it just feels like what I don't. It feels like Nerd Plus HQ, and it's like, who are these people? Why do we care what they think? But this is Deadline is saying that Sacha Baron Cohen will play Mephisto in Ironheart of all shows. And I will say, for those at home, they're like, wait, Ironheart, the villain in Ironheart is a character named The Hood, who is mystically connected. So it is weird, but not like completely out of left field.
What do you think about this casting? As we've been talking about who should play Mephisto for a long time, and I don't know that Sacha Baron Cohen's name has ever come up on anybody's list.
No. And I will say, I'm not holding my breath because we've played this game before. Oh, Mephisto! I'm not going to get suckered in this time. But I will say, if it is Sacha Baron Cohen, that's perfect. Like, I can't, like, I saw somebody be like, oh, it's left field. I'm like, is it even? Like, I know people associate him with like Borat, but he's really good. He's actually a really talented. I mean, Borat is a good performance, but he's talented beyond Borat. He's actually a really good actor, and I think he'd be really great at this. It is weird. Like, it doesn't feel like Sacha Baron Cohen is hurting for like a Marvel role. Like, I don't know that but if they get him, yes, please, thank you. I think he'd be great. What about you, Roxy?
I think that he is way more talented than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
In general, I feel like people do look at him as the Borat guy, which is funny because even just on that alone, like, I grew up watching Dally G show.
Yeah.
And so then, like, he with Bruno, with Ali G and Borat, even though none of those are Mephisto like, he has such fucking crazy range. That's the point of Sacha Baron Cohen, that he can do like everything and anything. So I think, and then I really thought he was great in the Trial of Chicago 7 as well.
Yeah, he's great in that. He was really good in Sweeney Todd. Like, he doesn't do a lot of roles outside of his own thing, which I think is why I'm like, would he do a Marvel thing? But like, he's got the chops. And also, you just said that those Ali G characters aren't really like Mephisto. They kind of are in the sense of like Agent of Chaos, like somebody that just shows up and is going to ruin your day.
Yeah, completely. I am curious what you think. This could be super far off, but like, feel like Sacha Baron Cohen and Isla Fisher are truly, madly, deeply, super in love bug. And I feel like one of the things that might make him want to take on a Marvel property is if she was doing something in the Marvel property, like maybe they're shooting in the same location for a minute or whatever it is. And a while back, I feel like we heard her name and obviously this is such a different property, but I feel like we heard her name for Sue Storm. Do you think that there is any role that you could really see her in?
I mean, yes, because I also think she's talented. When was the last time I saw her? It feels like it's been a minute since she's been in something.
I kind of feel that way about Sacha Baron Cohen too, actually.
That's true because it was like Borat 2. You know what I mean? That was it. That was yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Let me look. Isla Fisher. Okay, she was this year. I've never even heard of this show, DJ. She was in 6 episodes of Wolf Like Me on Peacock. Do you know what the show is? With Josh Gad
no,
and Isla Fisher.
no, none. No, I got
It's so
nothing for
crazy
you.
that there's that many scripted shows. Then in 2020, she was in a movie called Godmothered with June Squibb, who I fucking love.
No, I got
Um,
nothing for you. Who would she be? I don't know that she'd be good as Sue Storm. She would be good. She's talented. She'd be good at Sue Storm. I don't know if she'd be my first pick.
yeah, I feel you on both of those
But I
things.
feel like we're getting X-Men. We're getting a lot of stuff. There's a spot for dude. She could be Mephisto's right hand lady. I don't. You know what I mean? Like she could be anything.
Yeah, yeah. It would just be fun to see them do something together.
Agreed. I hope this happens because I think he'd be really good at it, and I think he'd be really good, particularly in this role. And I think you could do some fun shit with that. So, and you were telling me that people were talking about Adam Driver for something.
Yeah, I saw that the first time I saw this was actually Jeff Snyder had spoken about how Adam Driver was being brought in to talk to Marvel about Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
which is a little bit vague because there's a couple different roles in which he could play.
Yeah.
Um, More people probably talking about Doctor Doom, but obviously Reed Richards as well.
Yeah. He'd be good at either.
And I think that I'm pretty sure what Jeff's report was, and he actually tends to have his like finger super duper on the pulse, and normally he doesn't say anything that ends up not
Yeah.
panning out. But this wasn't a report that he was cast. This was a report that he has been meeting with them.
Yeah.
So I bet that that's exactly what's happening.
Mhm.
I bet he met with them.
Yeah.
And I think that Adam Driver is a top 3 actor of our gen for me.
Yeah.
I think
I
he's
agree.
so fucking good. So there's so little that he could be cast in, and I'd be like, no, fuck that. So yes. However, I do think maybe you feel similarly, DJ. Maybe not. He has his pick of the litter right now. Like
Yes.
he could do anything. And right now, what that tends to be for him are these beautiful soul movies
Yeah.
that I'm not saying that they're like tiny, you're still starring across Scarlett Johansson,
Yeah.
but these movies that really touch your soul and make an impact. And he's a veteran. He went to Juilliard. He's unbelievably trained. Like, I don't know that Fantastic Four is a shiny quarter for him as much as it
Yes.
is like I don't think he needs the paycheck, but also it would be cool to be like, I did Star Wars, I did Marvel,
Yeah.
like that. So maybe
Yeah.
he'd be interested.
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page where it's like obviously us as fans, yeah, whatever. Either Reed
Yeah.
Richards, Doctor Doom, I'm totally down. But it is one of those like it's hard to imagine him being in a room and Kevin Feige because you know that both Reed Richards and Doctor Doom aren't like one-offs. It's like we've got 15 movies planned for these characters. It's Fantastic Four, it's Secret Wars, it's showing up in WandaVision season 2 or whatever the fuck. And I
Right.
can't imagine them pushing that across the table to Adam Driver and him being like, "Oh, cool!" Like, it's just hard to picture that at this point.
And also, I can't picture Kevin Feige being like, "But we'll only sign you on to 3 movies just because you're Adam Driver."
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they need him for longer. So, but I do think that them being in conversations are probably legitimate to him being like, what does this look like for me? How many other movies a year can I do?
Yeah.
Like what, legit not negotiating as if they sign something, but negotiating like, what does my life look like if I sign on to this?
Exactly.
What can I do? What months am I free a year? Like, how far out do you guys plan? What am I allowed to do?
Yeah, and it
That's
might
the shit
be.
that matters then.
And I think in that range, I would actually be. I think Doctor Doom would be a better fit for 2 reasons. One, very few people are better at screaming on camera than Adam Driver. He's
That's
got
true.
that. He's got anger on camera on lock. So I think he'd be good as Doom. But also, Doom is not going to. I'm probably gonna use my word. Doom's not the lead character. He's not Reed Richards. He doesn't have to carry your. So it might be one of those that like, oh, I just have to film for a week for Fantastic Four and film for a week for Secret Wars, and then a couple days here and there, depending on if Doom shows up and other stuff. Sure, I got you.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. I think that whoever is playing Reed Richards probably is on lockdown for the next 10 years,
Yes.
like with
Well,
maybe like a free week
it
a
kind of
year.
like Brie Larson. It's kind of like she signed on for Captain Marvel, and then everything else kind of she's Captain Marvel now. Like how many other projects has she been in other
Yeah.
than that?
But the counter to that though is that if you're going to do two of the biggest franchises and two, arguably the two biggest franchises there
Yeah.
are you going to go super villain in both?
I mean, when you're that good at it, why wouldn't you just?
Maybe, but
Yeah.
like I think as an actor, maybe it would be
That's a good
more
point. And I
interesting for him.
truly, I would also like to see him because I know he's got the range. He was great in Logan Lucky too, as somebody more genuinely. We've gotten into a point in the comics where Reed Richards is kind of an asshole a lot. I actually think he's more compelling as a character when he's a good guy. And I'd like to see Adam Driver do that. For instance, no spoilers, but let's just like there was an actor that I thought maybe was good in a superhero role, and then he maybe showed up for a couple minutes in another movie and exuded genuine warmth, and it was like, oh, we wasted him in previous movies. We'll get into that in a minute. But
Yeah,
so
I know exactly who you're talking about. But like it maybe there. Do you think that general audiences think of Adam Driver as Kylo primarily first and
oh,
foremost?
1000%. You think they're watching House of Gucci? Of course not. Are they watching Marriage Story? No, they're
I mean,
not.
obviously, for me, it's girls, OG, day
Yeah.
one. But I wonder if, remember, like, Willem Dafoe in Aquaman and the whole time just feeling like he was going to, like, murder
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And,
yeah.
like, people, like, looking at him like, but you're Willem Dafoe. Like, I wonder if now general audiences see Adam Driver's face and they're like, but you're a bad guy.
I will say maybe, except that they really tried to position him as conflicted bad guy, not as outwardly villainous as Green Goblin. He
Yeah.
had feelings about it. He was so I mean we'll see I'm down for whatever he's doing next. He's doing what's the name of his movie he's doing next? I don't know. Speaking of movies, Matt Reeves apparently is in talks to be making Batman spin-offs, and for some reason not a single one of them is Zoe Kravitz Catwoman, which I find baffling.
And devastating at the same
And kind of
time.
devastating for a variety of reasons. One, she's great, and she's great in that role. And also, Catwoman's led her own comic for a while, like for many decades at this point, as Scarecrow
And
led
there
us.
was clearly enough there for
One
there to be,
thousand
you
percent.
know,
Has Clayface had his own comic? No. I mean, he's had one shots. Has Professor Pig? And by the way, Roxy, I love Professor
know.
Pig. Character created by Grant Morrison, who's one of my favorite writers of all time. Do I need a Professor Pig movie about Professor Pig where he's not fighting Batman? Not really.
I'm pretty positive that when we were speaking about, because I like Professor Pig a lot too. I'm pretty positive when we were speaking about who we want to be the villain of the second Batman movie, both of us were like Professor Pig.
Yeah, do it.
But I'm super with you. Like otherwise, huh?
Yeah, this feels like Sony's like, hey, do you want a Craven movie? Not really. I'd like to see Craven fight Spider-Man. Is that on the table?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how that was, how how we got here. You weren't watching the fuck was that show called that Gotham?
Yeah.
That little city.
Yeah.
With the Professor Pig run, were you?
Nope, I didn't get that. I think I watched the first full season, and then I was like, thank you, but no.
Bummer. It was so fucking creepy.
Yeah, Professor Pig's a creepy character. He's a cool character. We haven't done a lot with him. I will also say that one thing that makes me kind of interested in this is the mention of Clayface, because I don't know if we've talked about this, Roxy. I've started rewatching Batman the Animated Series, and it really made me feel like the movies need to go back to the more heightened, less grounded villains, because I feel like we've done grounded between the Dark Knight trilogy and the Batman. We did it. I don't think there's a lot more to say there, but I think there is something to be said for, there's a lot of talk about like Batman's the greatest detective, and it's like it'd be cool to position him as like weird Sherlock Holmes. He's the greatest detective to solve mysteries of like, what's this clay monster doing, or why is this man turning into a giant man bat, like, or Mr. Freeze. Like, I'd like to see them go back into, partially because we haven't gotten Clayface in a Batman movie. We've only done Mr. Freeze once, and I would argue there's room for improvement. I'd like to see the more heightened stuff, you know?
Yeah, just speaking on Mr. Freeze for a second, though, the second that the Joker movie came out and worked,
Yeah.
a lot of people, myself included, were like, if you guys are going to continue doing this type of movie, Mr. Freeze would be an excellent person to do a spin-off standalone villain-centered movie on, because he's just got such a, for lack of better words, like gut-wrenching, heartbreaking story. I was going to say heartwarming at first.
Yeah. The opposite of that.
Heart freezing. Heart chilling. So yeah, I don't know. How are you feeling about Matt Reeves' involvement in all of this right now?
Sure. I like the Batman a lot, actually. It definitely has problems. I think it's about an hour too long. But I really like it. I wish more energy was spent on characters I want to see movies of, like Batgirl or Nightwing, or pick a Robin, any Robin. It's weird that they're like the villains, and it's like, but you all are not in the position that Sony is with Spider-Man, where all you have is Spider-Man and his villains. It
is so weird that they act like that.
Yeah, like it's like, because
really
it's not only like Batman's an island up to himself. You're DC. You have Superman. You have anyone. I know we're working on Blue Beetle, but it's like you shit canned the Batgirl movie, but you're making a Clayface movie. Why?
Don't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
Maybe because they're willing to throw it away. I don't know. Money.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know in what world a Batgirl movie wouldn't make as much money as a Clayface movie. I genuinely don't, but they know something we don't know, DJ.
I'm sure. Also, wouldn't most of these movies be kind of the same? Mad scientist goes crazy and kills people. Isn't it fundamentally the same bit?
How many of these movies do you actually think we're gonna get?
None. Zero. Zip. Nada. I don't think.
Or shows.
Yeah, none. I will be surprised if we actually get the Penguin one. I think they're supposed to start filming soon, and I liked Colin Farrell in that movie as Penguin. But I just don't, with everything going on with Warner Brothers and Discovery, it's like none of this is going to happen. What do you think, Roxy?
I think that it's not none, but I don't know that it's, right now they're saying what? Scarecrow, Clayface, Professor Pig.
Yeah.
Mentions of Mr. Freeze, Penguin.
Yeah.
So of that, half?
Maybe.
But kind of like if you said which half, I would say throw darts at the wall and see what sticks.
And I wonder if this is just meant to be like so that way when we do the Batman, he's got more of a rogues gallery. It's like, and I would just say just have them be there. Like I don't know that they need standalone things. Like just time has passed, and now more of these fuckers are running around. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a great reason. You asked about Matt Reeves' involvement. I like his I like the Batman. I like the Planet of the Apes movies he did. I didn't love Cloverfield actually, but what about you? You asked about Matt Reeves' involvement. What do you think about Matt Reeves' involvement?
I just wonder if people would be more excited hearing about this if it was Todd Phillips.
Maybe, but also the Joker movie has a lot of baggage with, you know what I mean? Like it obviously did well, but
yeah, I'm just hearing that Matt Reeves. I wonder if people right now are like, Matt Reeves focus on the Batman 2.
Yes.
And then the Batman 3, because I think people really want a Batman trilogy.
Yeah.
And we think that that's probably what we're getting. Obviously, we know we're getting this next Batman movie. We've already set up a little bit, Barry Keoghan not being the main villain, but being a villain.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see that footage of his audition in the hallway?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what we'll say about that.
Yeah.
Everybody's like Clockwork Orange.
Listen,
you weren't wrong.
I like Barry Keoghan. I think he is very talented. That he did that audition tape. He also did a tape to be Spider-Man, and it's one of those. And also, I didn't love him as Joker in the Batman, but I think he's really talented. I just don't. I don't know.
I loved him in Eternals.
Yeah, I think he's really good. I think he's really good in Green Knight. I think he's really good. I did not like Killing of a Sacred Deer. He is very good in it. And I would also see watching that movie and being like, oh, maybe Joker. I I don't know. Anyway, whatever. None of that matters. I agree with you, Roxy. I would like Matt Reeves focus on the Batman too. Come on, man. Last
So
thing.
it's just why I'm curious if that's why if there's not more love for this right now, because like we're not hurting for Batman content, we're hurting for Superman content. I don't think anybody was out here like we don't have enough Batman right now, like
Honestly, I think that's where I'm kind of at is less of like, let's build out. Not only it'd be one thing if they were like, let's build out this Batman universe with Batgirl and Robin and other characters with
The
Catwoman.
Bat
For
family,
God, fucking Catwoman. Do a Catwoman thing with Zoe Kravitz. It would make money anyway. But also, kind of what I'd rather be is like, hey, we're going to introduce a Superman to the DC universe and just slowly, low key, start building off a new DC universe off of the Batman, because it's like I'm totally down for that.
I guess the bigger problem is, and I'm not saying that everything should be fan run, but I don't feel like they are listening to us at all in terms of like what the fans are looking for.
Yeah.
And they're looking at this did well, more of this. So Batman did well for them. So they're like, okay, what are 10 movies like this that we could make? Instead of being like, what is DC?
You know what? I think that's a very good point. I think they're looking at it like, especially probably now with Discovery people, they're very much looking at it like studio guy. You know what I mean? Like studio guy, like this is a machine. And they're all machines. And I know they're all machines. And I'm going to compare it to Marvel, which is 100% a machine. But I think Kevin Feige has a better understanding of the machine he has. You know what I mean? He's like, I know what made those comics work. And so I know what's going to make with these movies work. And it's not 15 different Iron Man spinoffs. It's Thor and then Captain America and then Hulk. Like that's the machine. That's how it works. Whereas it just feels more and more like that the more buyouts we have, and as time goes on, that for some reason nobody at Warner Brothers understands the DC machine. They're like, why? How do we make more Batman? I don't know. Clayface. What do we do? And it's like, how can you guys not figure this out?
Totally.
Anyway. Should we talk about Saladgate with Olivia Wilde? For those just tuning in, Olivia Wilde, who has become a recurring, her and Ezra Miller have become recurring characters in our news segments.
Yeah, but you want to know what? This segment's really more about Jason Sudeikis than it is about Olivia Wilde.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. She's getting a lot of heat right now, and I think that is not unfounded, but because I feel as if the evidence is pointing to the fact that she was cheating on her husband. And people don't like that.
And I also think she's she's saying a couple things. One, obviously, like she's saying like, because I'm a woman, which is not untrue and obviously not unfounded.
Right.
However, it does feel like to me that she's doing a lot of like that he's the problem. And it's like, that's not going to make you look great. Like, don't like, because that's what the dudes do. That's what like Johnny Depp's and the Brad Pitts do. It's like, actually, it's the other person that's the problem. And it turns out in the Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp case, they're the problem.
But I would say that you are one of very few people who think that, especially a few men who think that, DJ. I think that she is dead right that a lot of the heat that is coming to her is because she's a woman.
Yeah.
Period. Also, he is coming to her because she was unfaithful to her husband and has been caught in a couple of lies.
Yeah.
So one of those things, people are allowed to feel a certain way. I just think they feel that way more towards women than they do to men.
Yeah.
Like when we find out that men are cheating on their wives, although we just had Try Guy Gate.
Yeah, we just had
like
Try Guy Gate. And then there was a big thing when I was reading
Adam
an article.
Levine Gate.
Yeah. And I was just reading a thing about like times are changing, right? So it's not, times are changing. And so there was another thing where people were like, reading about the drama on set of Don't Worry Darling, and so apparently like some people were like, well, we didn't want to come forward because we didn't want to like hurt her career. And it's like, well, I think that's the same excuse people give to men too. And they'd be like, well, it's a woman. And it's like, it's different because she's a woman. It's like, well, people talk about how to this day, people talk about how Steven Spielberg directed Poltergeist because of Tobe Hooper's cocaine drug addiction. And so it's like, it's not like we don't have these conversations about guys. I do understand the larger point, though. I'm just saying maybe it's more nuanced. I don't know.
Right. But I do think what she is talking about, which she's not the one who should be saying this, but it is true. people aren't talking about Jason Sudeikis right now, and seemingly how he treated their nanny was unfucking acceptable.
Okay.
Like, which I care infinitely more about how he treated their nanny than how their marriage ended. You
Yeah.
know, like the nanny released text messages with her and Jason, who she referred to as drunk, angry, verbally abusive,
Yeah.
and in the messages, she's like, it's 10 o'clock at night. I need to go to bed. And he's like, get fucking downstairs. We need to speak. I'm not safe with you in my home, because I guess he found out she had been texting with Olivia Wilde as
Yeah.
well. The text messages were like, ugh,
Yeah.
gross. And then when she texted Olivia about it, Olivia responded, and what I thought with kindness at least, and was
Yeah.
like, I need to speak to Jason. I'm so fucking sorry to hear this. I'm going into work right now. I hope that you're okay. And I'm not saying Olivia handled it perfectly, but Jason's texts were like fucked up.
Yeah.
Olivia's were not. And I'm not here to stand up for Olivia Wilde
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying it is bizarre that as a society, this story comes out. And what people are focusing on is that Olivia Wilde made salad dressing for Harry Styles, which is fucking hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
But also, even Jason Sudeikis laying his body down outside of her car so she couldn't leave the house. It's like, I understand you don't want your wife to go, but like, you can't keep somebody there by laying your body down on the road.
Yeah.
That's fucking, and love makes us do fucked up, crazy things. So I give that a pass. But how you treat your nanny is like, you get it together, my dude. You can't do that. And that she consistently was like, he was drunk all the time, angry all the time. It's like, that's not a good look.
Yeah. Well, and not apparently it was enough to give Olivia Wilde and Jason Sudeikis on the same page, because apparently they both came out and were like, no, she's lying. It's like, well, is she though? Is she?
Yeah, I mean, she released the messages, and I think it probably didn't make either of them look good. And then Olivia Wilde posted something that was kind of hysterical but also bizarre, which was the recipe for salad dressing. And I was just like, is this so fucking funny? But also, this is like you're treating it like this is a joke to you, but then in interviews you're saying this is ruining your life.
Yeah.
So kind of, which is it?
Yeah, I think and each situation is different, but so I can only speak from an outsider perspective. But I think of the situations we've talked about, it's like I got a lot of respect for Angelina Jolie, because she knows, like, I'm gonna keep this shit to myself. There's no the only time, it's only when like Brad Pitt like lawsuit and she's like, well, countersuit, you know what I mean? Like, but just otherwise, I don't need to air this out in public. I'm like, that's the right. I feel like that's the right call. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I can't speak.
I know what you mean though, because Olivia Wilde keeps being like, we have kids, we have children together, and it's like, right.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not saying you are the problem. And I'm not saying he is the problem. I'm saying that I don't think either of you guys are helping the kid situation right now. And I'm not a parent, so what the fuck do I know?
Yeah.
But like,
and like you said, these things are messy, so who knows? So we're all, again, it's everybody's perspective. It's like a Rorschach test. We all look at it differently, but it does seem like she's been trying to position herself like, I'm the patron saint of feminism. And it's like, well, I don't think people are going to respond to that the way you think they are. Maybe don't do that. But who am I? I don't know.
yeah, totally. I think she's a wildly talented director.
Yeah.
So I'm down with that. I think she's a great creator. And I don't think she has done anything. You know, we're not questioning right now, did she assault somebody?
Yes.
Did she, like there's a lot of people out there that we should be going after. And in terms of that kind of stuff, I think she's a great creator. And would I marry her? Maybe not. Same with Jason after these stories. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I think he's an amazing actor and performer as well.
Yeah.
So kind of both on both sides. Would I want to be in a relationship with either of them? No. Lucky for me, I don't have to do that.
Yep. Not yet. You don't know.
Good point.
Anyway, listen, that's all the news that's fit the print as of this recording. Let's go on a quick ad break, and we will be right back. All right. We are back. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, we're going to talk about Black Adam. Oh my goodness. The movie we've been waiting a generation to see. It's directed by, I should have looked this up before. I'm probably going to mispronounce this, and I do apologize. Wam Colette Serra, who also directed Jungle Cruise and The Shallows, and is written by...
I think it's Wame Colette Sarah.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
I should have looked it up. That was my bad. I should have looked it before.
Wame Colette Sarah, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, worked with The Rock before Mr. Dwayne Johnson on Jungle Cruise, which was also just fine. And it was written by Adam. Gonna fuck this up too. It's Sztykiel. Zestikiel. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And Rory Haynes and Sarab Nashirvani. Nearly 5,000 years after he was bestowed with the almighty powers of the Egyptian gods and imprisoned just as quickly, Black Adam is freed from his earthly tomb, ready to unleash his unique form of is it unique? Anyway, his unique form of justice on the modern world. The Rotten Tomatoes score. What? Roxy, have you looked at the Rotten Tomatoes recently?
No, I looked at it before. So I looked at it yesterday.
Okay. Any guesses on where it is right now?
For critics?
Yeah.
Still at that 50-something mark?
Is it 43%?
That's way, way too low.
Any guesses on the audience score?
60-something?
88%, which I would argue is way too high.
Yeah.
Somewhere in between those two. If you average those two numbers out, you might get something that I feel is reflective of the actual movie we got. And the critics' consensus is Black Adam may end up pointing the way to an exciting future for DC films, but as a standalone experience, it's a wildly uneven letdown. So briefly, we're going to get full spoilers because there's not a productive way to talk about this movie without that. But before we do full spoilers, Roxy, spoiler-free thoughts for Black Adam.
I thought that this movie had some really great parts. I liked The Rock. I liked the film. It was way too stylized for my taste. I think that I liked that they're teaming up again, but Wami Colette Sarah made choices in this that I thought detracted from the film greatly.
Yeah.
And I think it was great at 2 hours. I think if it had gone longer, it would have been a really, really bad choice. I think it probably could have been even like 15, 20 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
And it was definitely solid for me. Good enough.
Good enough. Good enough is a great way to describe this movie. I agree with you. I think I like the cast a lot. Obviously I like Dwayne Johnson a lot, but I also liked all the actors that played the JSA. We got Aldous Hodge as Hawkman, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, who's doing a lot of heavy lifting in this movie, in my opinion. Noah Centineo, I think that's how you pronounce it, as Atom Smasher. Should have been used. I think could have been used a lot more. I think he was really good.
He's awesome. Have you not seen him in any of his Netflix runs?
Nope.
So
good
he's
here.
like To All the Boys I Loved Before. Sierra Burgess is a Loser.
Yeah.
To All the Boys I Loved Before too. He's like the Netflix it boy.
I get it. I get the appeal. He's great here. He's basically, and this is kind of a bummer of all the JSA. A lot of the JSA is like this, where Atom Smasher is like, what if Spider-Man, but Giant Man? And sure, I mean, good enough. I mean, who cares? And Dr. Fate is, what if Doctor Strange, but Pierce Brosnan?
But
actually, all for it.
For me, hating Doctor Strange, having him be my least favorite character in the MCU, the entire time, all I kept thinking was, I am so upset that Pierce Brosnan was not
Doctor Strange. Listen, I am on the record. I like Doctor Strange 2 a lot. That's mostly because of Sam Raimi. But similarly, I'm like, Pierce Brosnan would have made a good Doctor Strange. I think we could have made Dr. Fate a little more unique, but he's very good in this role.
He's just wildly talented, so that was really lovely.
And he's also got like gravitas. He's also got like, you know what I mean? Like he's got presence. It's one of those, like when he comes in and saying like, I see the future. I'm like, I kind of believe you do.
Totally. And Contessa Swindle is fucking stud.
She's great. I think she's underutilized here. Where she is utilized, she's really good. It's one of those. I want more of her. I want like I think
She was so endearing. I was
Yes.
like, who this?
I have a crush on the entire JSA. I kept looking at it like, oh man, all of you are so
And not
beautiful.
just the JSA, but also Sarah Shahi, the Adriana. She was like, whoosh, really cute.
Yes. You may recognize Adriana Tomas as their version of that character was in Legends of Tomorrow. And of course, I need to mention Mohamed Amir, who is Mo from Rami, and he's also got a show on Netflix called Mo.
Oh, Mo, I know. I was like, big year for him.
Yeah, when I saw him, I'm like, oh, cool. And I thought he was gonna die early on, and spoilers, he doesn't. And I was like, cool. I also wish we did more. He's so great. Why are we? You're just the comedy guy. That's kind of a bummer. Oh well.
Fucking excellent though. I wish that the people I screened it with, enjoyed him as much as I did.
Yes. So yeah, my thoughts are similar to you, Roxy. I like the cast. There's some ideas presented. There's a good movie in here. I just think it's paced really poorly. I think mostly the thing it's just paced really poorly, and it has the problem of a lot of modern blockbusters where instead of, like I was talking about earlier, instead of like one idea leading into the next idea, it's just kind of like, here's all the things we wanted to do. How do they connect? Who cares? And it's like, well, but that's, if you want me to emotionally connect to your movie, you need to make me care. That's your job. And
right, it did kind of feel like the Tatiana Maslany, She-Hulk, what they were making fun of in the finale.
Yeah.
It did kind of feel like this was a little bit of that, even though this is DC. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And so now I think this is a good segue into spoilers because I want to get into specifics about that. And specifically, I think one of my favorite sequences is also the best example of like what I think doesn't work about the movie is when they first summon Black Adam. He comes in, and Monica, I saw this with my wife, and she pointed out it's a lot like the Injustice games, to the point where I kind of wonder, did you read a Black Adam comic or did you just play the Injustice games? Because a lot of like Dr. Fate's moves and Black Adam's moves come straight from the Injustice game. But anyway, he's nuking people. He's ripping people in half. It looks dope. But the visuals feel like they're communicating to me, this isn't your dad's superhero. He's fucked up. He kills people. He's kind of a bad guy. But the music is like triumphant superhero appearance. And it's like, you two need to get on the same page because you're conveying two different things. And that was kind of like the movie. It's like, did any of you talk to each other about what we're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I'm with you tonally. But then also with the pacing that you're speaking about, when we get to, and full-blown spoilers here.
Full spoilers. If you haven't watched the movie, tune out, I guess.
When we lock Black Adam up for the first time, or I guess the only time, when he goes submerged and whatever.
Oh, you're talking about near the end of the movie.
But not near the end of the movie. Because I was like, okay. And then we have a whole act after that.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is what, not to be like, not all movies have to follow the same structure, but what film structure are we following here? Like
none,
because we had that, we already had a third act, and then we had a third act, and I was like, wait, that was all the second act?
There's a whole chunk of the Black Adam movie where Black Adam's locked away for it.
Right, and what part of them, like structure wise, I was like, okay, so recently I think a lot of movies that are like closer to that 90-minute have been doing this new thing where it's like a 30 act 1, act 2, act 3, as opposed to like a 20 big chunk last 20, you know. In this I was like, I am confused as a viewer where we are in this story. I thought the story was wrapping up, which didn't quite make sense, but I was like, okay, because part 1, and we'll do another movie. But then we like opened up a whole new chapter, and I was like, where? Yeah, what a weird choice.
And I think part of that, a lot of that confusion. I think this movie has a lot of weird choices. I think I would my take would be more, I actually think this is a bad movie with things I like in it. I think the way the movie moves is kind of bad. And I think part of going back to your point there is that I think the pacing is kind of confused throughout. And I weirdly, even though tonally these are very different projects, it reminded me a little bit of the Rings of Power show, which treats every single moment as if it's the biggest, most epic thing ever. And the problem is if you do that every moment, it means nothing. It's just white noise at that point. It's like, well, nothing, because there's no ups and downs. There's no rising and falling action. There's none of that. This was the same thing where it's like, we're doing this. Like, I don't know where we are. I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling right now. I don't know where Black Adam is on his character arc. By the end of the movie, I don't know what he is supposed to have learned, if anything.
Totally. I think that I feel the opposite of you, DJ, where I think that this was a good movie.
Yeah.
With good elements and shit structure.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a good movie because I'm invested in the characters. Yeah. I really was. I'm invested. The one character that I didn't name, who I thought was the best character in the entire movie, was the boy who plays Amon.
You and Hay had different reactions to the boy who played Amon.
Oh, I was so invested in him. I thought he was so good, and I thought he was so fun that I think that I thought the acting was great in this movie. I think obviously the visuals are really fucking sick. I think The Rock can carry any movie. And some parts of the soundtrack were really cool. Pretty sure that was a Kanye West song that started playing.
There was a lot of really baffling needle drops. That it's not that the songs. It's like the rest of the movie. Like, a song will be introduced seemingly out of nowhere. Like, it doesn't, the movie doesn't move towards the song. It's just, we're playing this song now. And then it just stops just as abruptly. And it's like, okay. It reminded me of watching the first Suicide Squad movie. It's like, did the people that edit trailers edit this movie?
Interesting, because remember, I liked that movie.
I liked it the first time I watched it too. And then it's like, wow. And now we've got a whole nother Suicide Squad that's way better.
Yeah, definitely true. So I think this is a good movie with some major issues, but like I think that a lot of it had a lot of good elements and parts to it. And just me giving a shit about the characters, I think is enough to make me think a movie is good. It especially in a superhero movie. Yeah. If you don't give a shit about the characters, there's no way the movie can be good. And I could see you not giving a shit about the young boy. That would be a huge problem, obviously. Yeah. Like, if you didn't get this kid, if you didn't connect with this kid, then that fucks up the whole movie for you.
Yeah.
They relied a lot on us liking him, which I did. Yeah. He reminded me of like a little East Coast fuck. Which I think is why I was like, oh, I know this guy.
Yeah, it was like, I think I had trouble with it because it felt like a character asking the movie to be a different movie. He's like, hey, you need catchphrases, you need this shit. I'm like, I don't want any of that in this movie, little kid. And also, whenever they have, like, on his wall is the poster for the Wonder Woman movie, and I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, what did Wonder Woman in this universe pose for a poster? Like, I don't know whatever. His bit, I felt like unnecessary to the movie for me. I will say stuff I did like. It does raise. I don't think it explores these in ways that as well as it could have. But like when the Justice Society shows up, which I'll bring up. I have some issues there too. But when the Justice Society shows up, Sarah Shahi's character is like, yeah. Why you think we'd be mad at Black Adam? You all aren't coming. We're occupied by Intergang. We want somebody to kick these guys out. You're not showing up. Of course we like this guy. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is a compelling. I wish the movie was more about this. And I think a lot of Black Adams, him taking out people is cool. I especially like the one we introduced, these crazy sky bikes that I guess can like flash teleport, and he flash teleports one into a dude. It's like, that's cool.
I did actually find that part of the movie a little confusing.
Just that part?
What technology we had versus what we didn't.
Oh, yeah, because we're not in the MCU where we've slowly built up the technology over time. Suddenly it's just, we have these things, and I'm like, wait, when? Where?
I was like, that was confusing for me. Yes. That was when we saw those, we're calling them bikes.
Sure. The little ships they have. They look like motorcycles. They're like speeder bikes, but in the sky.
But nobody was confused by them. Like, everybody who was there. What's the name of the city that they're in?
Kahndaq.
nobody in Kondak is like confused. So they've all seen this, but or maybe they were and we just didn't hear that part. But then they are like so lacking in technology there. It was bizarro to kind of see like what do you guys have and what don't you have?
And then and then they're there to mine what we learn is eternium, which is rare, but also not because we make rockets out of it. Like I don't know how rare eternium's supposed to be.
What's the deal with when Amanda Waller appears at the end on a
drone?
So that what happened? It was a drone video.
Yeah, it was a drone video. Wait, we need to pause. We need to talk about the post-credit scene in a minute. But I think that's a problem.
Yeah,
with
I'm just talking about the technology aspect of it, where I was just like,
yeah, she just has a drone with a video. We couldn't get Viola Davis on set that day, so she's got a hologram, I guess.
So like okay, but then he's like not confused by that at all. Like Adam's character speaks English, which is funny.
Especially since we established they speak another language in the past. That is wild. Wow. We don't even touch on that.
He speaks English. The drones don't phase him. The flying ships don't like he really, but the doors, he can't.
He doesn't and then sarcasm. He doesn't know what which I guess was a good joke, but also it's not just that. I think that's a good point. But it's even stuff like, Amanda Waller's like to the JSA, Black Adam's been around for all of 5 minutes. We need you to go get him. Wait, a couple questions. How do you know? Is the news out that he destroyed that one army? Also, why? Like we get a thing later where they're like, why are you here? And it's like, we know about his secret from the past. What is the secret? He blew up some stuff. We don't really know. Okay, so then why are you here? You know what I mean? Right. I think it's easy scripting stuff of like when Black Adam shows up, when he fights all those people, it is in a place or something that it makes global news. And you know what I mean? But then you have to start having conversations like, so the JSA sees that happen, decides to show up. You need to actually have the conversation of why hasn't the JSA gone and kicked Intergang out of Kondak? That feels like a important question to ask them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. I do have a question. I do have a question about how this works in the comics, DJ, and I wonder what I've missed or whatever. Is Amanda Waller have control? So she obviously has control over the Suicide Squad. She's got the things in their head, and that's what she does.
Yes.
Amanda Waller has control over the JSA?
Not in the comics.
So, what was your interpretation of what was happening here? Because obviously like she is still kind of bossing them around, but she's also not putting together the team. That's Hawkman's putting together the team. So why is he reporting to, like, what is she doing?
Great question. I don't know. Okay. I think it's just like, hey, you're Nick Fury now, and it's like, well, that's not really what Amanda Waller is in the DC universe, but okay. I also think. And
did you think that girl was the girl from Peacemaker? I couldn't tell.
It is the girl from Peacemaker. It's the same actress. Yeah.
Okay, I could not tell. She looked
prison.
Vastly different.
Yeah. So and her. It's James Gunn's not writing her, so she acts pretty different too.
So different. Yeah. I was like, ooh, these universes are not. She's actually a very good actress. I know that because I watched that show.
Yeah.
This does not seem like her.
Yeah, and it made me wonder, like, where does this fall? Because she's kind of a different character by the end of Peacemaker. Is this pre the Suicide Squad or like in between the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker? That doesn't matter. For those that haven't watched the movie and are for some reason listening to us talk about it, basically, Sarah Shahi's character, Kondak is in a police state under Intergang, which I don't really know what their deal is. Anyway, they're a high-tech, high-powered gang. They're mining this thing called Eternium. Black Adam was supposed to be the defender of Kondak 5,000 years ago. She summons him. Basically, the rest of the movie is Black Adam smashing things and then them losing this crown that's bad news bears. The JSA shows up to stop, quote-unquote, stop Black Adam. And they even to the point where he gets imprisoned by Amanda Waller, Amanda Waller, I don't even know what organization, I guess Argus in this universe. And then the bad guy gets the crown and becomes Sabak, who's basically the devil. That's all you need to know.
I like the way the crown looked.
The crown looked cool. I thought the the crown's upside down. We've been saying it backwards. Of course you have. The way you've been saying it doesn't make any fucking sense.
And multiple times people being like, well, that's like obvious.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah. So
right.
maybe flip it the other way. Where are all you dumb? I don't know. Anyway, and then they have to bring Black Adam back. I will say, and he fights Sabak with Hawkman. And they save the day. I will say, by the end of the movie, there's a lot. Pacing, I think, is bad. Some of the music choices are rough. I couldn't stand, especially by the end of the movie, all the speed ramping slow mo shit. I'm like, you guys need to fucking cut it out. This is too much. This is more. Zack Snyder would look at this and be like, this is too much.
Way too much. Way too much. I mean, I think there's no excuse for that. I don't know why they did that. I think that was the wrong choice.
Yeah, first couple times it's like, oh, this is cool, and then they kept doing it. I'm like, you don't need to do it because it started messing up with the rhythm of action scenes. It did.
I had texted you beforehand being like, I hear slow mo.
Yeah.
And then I saw it and was like,
I thought the most egregious was the Black Adam Hawkman fight in the apartment where it's like it just was hard to watch.
It was hard to watch.
Because
I
it was
agree.
going up and down. Anyway,
and I also, the way they did it made you think it was like a joke.
I couldn't tell. Maybe.
And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
What did you make of the big reveal of who Black Adam was in terms of being the father of the whatever the kid's name was?
Yeah. I thought it would have worked better had they not said that in the trailer. Because I know it worked. Monica hadn't seen any trailers or anything, so she's like, "Oh, I thought that was a cool surprise." I'm like, "Oh," because in the trailer they're like, he mentions his son, like it, and also the father talking to the son is clearly Dwayne Johnson, is like clearly his voice, and I thought it worked. I thought it specifically worked in this movie. Again, I don't think I would have spoiled it in the trailer. I think it works better in this movie than what actually happens in the comics, because in the most recent comics, he actually takes the Black Adam power from his son, killing his son in the process, so making him more clearly a villain. What did you think about?
I thought they did a good job with the reveal and how it was shot. I liked it. I also, like you, knew what was happening because I had seen the trailer, but I was thinking about in 5 years from now, like people who haven't seen the trailer, who are watching this movie for the first time, I think that will hit well.
Yeah.
And I think that they did a good job with the way that they physically shot that.
Well,
I
and
also thought it was funny to see The Rock skinnier.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's clearly not him.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's kind of where that reveal happens is kind of what I was talking about earlier. Those issues I was listing all exist. That said, by the end of the movie, I was kind of into what the movie was doing. I was like, okay, I'm in it at this point. Like that moment where he resurrects in the ocean and becomes Black Adam again. I was like, okay, I'm into this. I'm ready to see him kick Sabac's ass. It's not going to be, I don't know if it's going to be that interesting, but I'm ready for it.
Yeah, totally. And I did like it's not your time, Dad, like and him floating to the top. I thought that was cool. It visually looked sick at 90% of the time when they weren't doing that slow-mo shit.
Yeah, other than the slow-mo shit, it looked good. It was a good, and also we'll get into this later. I liked that it wasn't, they clearly stole the speed ramping from Zack Snyder, but they didn't steal the like desaturated color palette, which became very obvious in the post-credit scene, which let's answer some questions, which will lead us right there. So Leonard Kim asks, is Black Adam a part of the DCU or is it another universe? It is very much part of the DCEU. I'm not going to say that's not confusing, but it is clearly meant to be part of Man of Steel, the Suicide Squad, part of that same universe.
Peacemaker.
Yeah. All the same bit. Jake Hefner asks, how does this movie treat the JSA for their big screen debut? What do you think it could have done better?
I actually think that they debuted them great. I think that they debuted them very clearly. Here are their powers. Here are their names. Here's what they do. Here's how they interact. And I was like, yep. Obviously, I had a little, me, DJ. What do we say about me? Lover of love, shipper of ships. So, of course, I was like, okay, do I want to see more of Atom Smasher and Cyclone like make out? Like, is that like something that I'm hoping for? Yeah, obviously.
And they don't do anything with it, but they do walk you right up to it. They're like, hey, and it's like
they walk me right up, and I hook, line, and sinker. I was like, two hot people sitting in the room. They might kiss. Like, I was hoping they do, and by a room I mean spaceship or whatever.
Whatever it was. I love how they're like, with the JSA, they're like, the X-Men, and it's like the mansion, the ship coming out of the ground, and it's like, I'm sure that's not really the JSA, but I'm down for it. I'm not against it.
Totally. I think that so I thought that they did a good job with them. I don't think we could have spent any more time with them. But I do think it was a little weird how late in the movie, again, speaking of the pacing, they were introduced.
Yeah.
We were like, and I don't know because I don't look at my phone during the movie. It felt like we were 45 minutes in when they were introduced. I don't think that's accurate. I think maybe we were closer to 20 minutes in. But it genuinely, I was like thinking to myself multiple times, where are the JSA?
Yeah, there was a lot of exposition up top, which probably didn't help. Like, there's a whole like backstory thing. They're like, I don't know if we need to do this way, but sure, okay.
Yeah, it just took us a long time to get to them, and they were one of my favorite parts of the movie. So, but I don't think we should. I think maybe we could have gotten them a little earlier. But I don't think that we needed more backstory in them. I saw a lot of critics were like, we don't know shit about them. We need way more backstory here, and I did not need more backstory.
Yeah, I don't know that I need more backstory. I think I would have integrated them more into the movie. Like you're talking about them being introduced so late. You would not like this, but it's like I probably would have cut Sarah Shahi's character and the kid basically from the movie. And it would have been more like Black Adam with the JSA or more with, because I think you could have filled the role that the kid filled about saying, Black Adam, here's how to be a hero, with Noah Centineo's Atom Smasher, that he could have filled that role. And I think that actor, because I remember originally he was like, of the JSA, he was the first one cast. So I feel like there might be a draft somewhere where that's kind of the role he filled, where it's kind of like them. And it's like, I'm into that movie, and not necessarily more backstory, but no, like, what are Dr. Fate's abilities and how are they different than Doctor Strange's? Hawkman mentions not being afraid of death. As a fan of the comics, does that mean he resurrects like he does in the comics, or is it different? Is he an alien? A lot of different Hawkmen in the comics. Which one is this one?
Yeah, definitely that. And then also just going back to the two characters that I was just talking about, there was this one moment when they were in the spaceship. What are we calling
whatever it is? Yeah.
And Cyclone's like, well, yeah, that's because I was kidnapped and pricked and whatever. And
then it's like, backstory stuff. I'm like, oh, okay.
And I was like, I actually think that we needed less backstory there, because like you just opened a really weird door and then didn't go through it.
Didn't do anything with it. Yeah, it's like I don't care about it's kind of like they did this as a good joke in Jessica Jones. I care less about how they got their powers and more about who are they, what do they want, why is Cyclone part of the JSA, what is she hoping to get out of that, what is she trying to, you know what I mean, like, because
we know that this is both of their first mission. How?
Yeah, why were you chosen?
Apply?
Yeah, are there other
that's why I asked about the Amanda Waller aspect of it. I guess I don't understand how the JSA is formed, considering it's like so many moving parts, and this is 2 of the 4 members of the JSA's first mission.
Yeah, so who are the other ones?
right. So what is the JSA here? Yeah. And did Amanda Waller initially put them together, but then is like Hawkman just run it? Or did Hawkman put it together and Amanda Waller's like, not in my house, report to me? Like, what happened there?
Yeah.
I would be curious about. I don't know that we'll ever get that.
No.
But that's fine.
So this gets us to the post-credit scene, because Mike Joyce asked, would you rather see Black Adam versus Shazam and Black Adam versus Superman? And I was fortunate that I saw rumors of the post-credit scene leaking, and I knew what it meant, but I didn't look. And so I still got the basic sense of, ooh, surprise. That similar to the other Spider-Man and Spider-Man No Way Home, where it's like, I knew, but then you see and you're like, oh, it really is true. Cool. And we get Henry Cavill returning. Unlike Shazam, we actually get Henry Cavill in there. And that was cool. And I will also say, I feel like this might not be true, but I feel like it's the first time Henry Cavill was allowed to show actual warmth as the character. Like he's not coming in like, hey, we need to fight. He's like, hey, let's talk. And I'm like, I do need more Henry Cavill as Superman, because he was never allowed to do this before. I like this. And the colors on his costume pop all nice. And it's like, oh, suddenly I actually do care about Henry Cavill as Superman. If he actually gets to be Superman, I might be into that.
But what does this mean?
I honestly, I can tell you what I think it's supposed to mean. I think what it does mean is nothing. I think it means nothing. I think what it's supposed to mean is maybe they'll fight in a future movie, which the answer to Mike Joyce's question is, I actually I don't really care about Zachary Levi's Shazam, although I do like the first Shazam movie. I would prefer Henry Cavill versus Dwayne Johnson personally. There's a long history of Superman and Shazam fighting in the comics. We could just make that Black Adam. Why not?
I love Black Adam and Shazam, though. I love that we've been building to that. I love Zachary Levi's Shazam, and I can't wait to see them interact. But as a person with eyes, watching The Rock versus Henry Cavill would be fucking dope.
Black Adam's gonna curb stomp the entire Shazam family. They're not gonna be able to do shit for it against him. You asked what does it mean? And I think what it's meant to mean is that we're probably working on a Man of Steel 2 finally. And it probably means that we're maybe Black Adam versus Henry Cavill's Superman. Are we gonna get that? Big question mark on that, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. Speaking of Shazam for a second, though, I do think that they did not make it clear at all why Black Adam says Shazam. I think that was probably for people who just saw Shazam, don't understand. I think that was probably very confusing.
Yeah, because we get a brief glimpse of the wizard from Shazam,
right?
And we do get they
if
say
you remember that.
Yeah, exactly. The movie I had a trailer for Shazam right in front of it, and he's in the trailer. Me too. So I was like, maybe that helps. But I think you're right. Maybe a little bit more effort put into. Because there's one offhand mention of Black Adam in Shazam, but they don't refer to him as Teth Adam or Black Adam or any of that stuff. They just said there was a former champion. He fucked up. Moving on. Maybe connecting those a little bit more would have
just a tiny bit, because all of a sudden you're hearing a character that most people don't know. Most people don't know shit about Black Adam.
Yeah.
Just yelling Shazam to lose his powers, and it's like,
wait, what?
Yeah, also, I would think that would be fucking confusing.
I feel like Shazam's been on the JSA before. He could have just been on the team. Because right now, Black Adam Shazam's rivalry feels like the rivalry in the MCU between Ant-Man and Iron Man, where on paper it exists, but it's just a throwaway line in Civil War. It's not like, it's just like Henry Pym being like, I don't like Starks. The end. It doesn't really, that's kind of like the Black Adam Shazam rivalry. It's like, yeah, technically they're rivals, but he's going to fight Superman now.
Do you want to see more Hawkman-centered movie after this?
I'd like to see a JSA movie. I think the team, I don't know any individual member got me excited enough for a standalone movie, but I'd watch a JSA movie.
And who would be in it?
Unfortunately, not Dr. Fate. I hope
just more people, right? How is the JSA formed? Who's forming the JSA?
You need to explain that. Is that because? And there's room to say that. You could say the Justice League is an independent operation where the JSA is part of the government, which is why Amanda Waller can just call them up. That's interesting. That could be a distinction between the two teams. I don't know. Are we introducing the JSA because we think Warner Brothers thinks the Justice League brand is toxic now? That'd be a bummer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I do like the people they introduced. I just do think that, what is your game plan with the JSA?
And
I'm glad they didn't kill Hawkman, though, because I would have been upset.
That would have been a bummer. And the game plan is probably different from when this movie first started filming to what it is now.
For sure.
Cool.
How's the movie doing in the box office?
I have no idea. Let's see if we can bring it up right now.
I think it was doing pretty well. If it does well, that will mean one thing for the JSA. If it doesn't,
Black Adam zapped 7.6 million in Thursday night previews. I don't know what that means in the daytimes. Is that good? Fast and Furious 6. Oh, that's up there with Fast and Furious movies. Hobbs and Shaw. That's better than Hobbs and Shaw did. And Jumanji.
How was yours? This is going to be the most obnoxious comment I've ever made in my entire life, DJ, but this is the first time I've seen a movie in theaters at not a press screening in a long time.
Yeah.
A long, long time. The theater going experience was pretty miserable.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God. First of all, again, this is going to be fucking so obnoxious, but first of all, people wouldn't get off their fucking phones.
Ugh.
I can't believe that surprised me, because I know that about people, but in press screenings you would get kicked out.
Yes.
So there's nobody even looks at their phone.
Yeah.
Everybody kept looking at their phone, texting, scrolling, whatever it was, and I was like, oh my God.
I will say the difference is you're right about press screenings. If you're at an influencer screening, those motherfuckers can't get off their phones.
For sure. Number two, it smelled like shit. It was like fucking Comic-Con. Yeah. I was like,
how full was your theater?
A quarter.
Oh, there was only 2 other people in our theater.
Okay, it was a quarter
Yeah.
full. And it smelled fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like awful. And then people were like having conversations,
Cool.
like conversations with each other, turning like, oh yeah, I think that means that. And I was just like, and then also DJ, the movie started at 3.
Yeah.
It actually started at 3:20.
Oh yeah, because the trailers.
People were walking in as late as 3:50
Ugh.
and walking in front of you, stopping. Like I was like mad people, super, super late. And I was like, what the fuck? You guys are walking into a movie 40 minutes after it started, 20 minutes into the movie?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, it was an awful movie going experience.
Ugh.
Awful. And I was just thinking to myself, like, this is why they have press screenings, because it actually affected my experience.
I actually say that's it. That's actually in the movies, to the movie's credit, because normally if I have a bad movie experience, it kind of taints the movie. I'm like, well, forget this movie. So the fact that you still liked it, actually, you know what I mean, despite all that,
yeah,
is a recommend. Roxy recommends you see Black Adam. Is what
I
is what we're
do.
saying.
I do.
I
But,
say,
oh God, people are fucking gross assholes.
that is certainly true. That is certainly true. Roxy recommends the movie. I say maybe it's not bad. If you're looking for a superhero movie this weekend, you could do worse. Roxy, where can the kids find you?
Everywhere at Roxy Stryer.
You can find me at DJ Talks Trash. You can find the show everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers, but on Twitter.
You ain't got the vowels from stupid.
I want to thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.